Hey dummies, this is Matt from the Who Goes There podcast for DreadCentral.com, and I'm about to take a stab at 2015's Bastard. Now, I watched this movie because the cover art was really cool looking. It made it kind of look like it might be an exploitation film, something in the vein of I Spit on Your Grave. The story is about a pair of honeymooning serial killers who pick up two runaway lovebird hitchhikers on their way to a small town to play a concert with their band, the Royal Cunts. Along the way, they run into a depressed gay police officer, and the five of them together wind up being hunted by a serial killer of sorts in the woods. Now, I read a bunch of reviews about this movie before I actually watched it, and a lot of them seemed positive, saying that it was a cult classic and that it was one of the best slashers they'd seen in years. I don't know that I would go that far. The storytelling was pretty terrible, the dialogue was bad, the acting was terrible in a way that wasn't endearing like a movie like Sleepaway Camp, but just kind of grating on your nerves. None of the characters were really relatable, or even for that matter, likable or entertaining. That being said, there was some really great gore in this movie. There was some really great death and uncomfortable moments in this movie, including a kind of hard to watch scene near the end I'll get to that. But there's also a really nice pair of Pierce Tatty Bojangles and a really not nice pair of mashed potatoes. But that makes sense in the context of the whole story. The biggest problem with 2015's Bastard is that it traverses all these different good ideas, but it does it with a safety net. Now, here's what I mean. It can never fully decide what it wants to do as a film. It's very obvious that it wears its influences on its sleeves. There's times where it very much feels like it wants to be Sleepaway Camp, but then there's times where it feels like it wants to be Friday the 13th, where it wants to be Tucker vs. Dale, or Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. Then there's times where it gets really slapsticky. Mostly I'm referring to a couple of scenes with a really large purple dildo. There's the last 20 minutes or 15 minutes or so seem almost like it's really influenced by the French extreme movies like Inside and High Tension, and it does a lot of different horror tropes well, but it doesn't really do any of them great. That being said, I guess I would kind of recommend watching this movie if you like slasher flicks, if you want some pretty, for the average person, some pretty heavy gore, or if you're just a normie kind of wanting to crank it up a bit. It's a pretty safe feature where you don't really root for anyone, so it doesn't matter who dies, and you don't have to pay a lot of attention. So, this movie is kind of meh, little more meh than meh, but so yeah, that's my thoughts on 2015's Bastards. I am Matt for the Who Goes There podcast for DreadCentral.com, and I'm just gonna have to kill you, childs.